What's up, bud? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. How you doing yourself?
I'm pretty good. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
Awesome. Me too. How are you doing?
Does it get
I mean, this could
frustrating
be an
that you
entire stream if
debate
you
so?
want. We could just check how each other's doing. What's your pulse like? What's been going on there? Is your heart rate okay? Cholesterol levels fine?
Okay, so you are a
Uh,
fellow Brit bonger, coming to bong us
yeah,
all
I
some
am.
Brexit stuff.
Yeah, I seem to do everybody else's head over. Do everyone else's head over in with it over here in the UK. So I thought I'd do your head in with it too. I'm
Do
kind of the
your head
opposite end
in.
of
Is that like Brit bonger for like have a talkie walkie, or what is that? What does do your head in mean?
do your head in basically is get on your nerves.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
or wind up.
Well, your
But do
accent's
your
already
head in.
got you halfway there, so.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I'm on the other side of the sort of Brexit debate. I kind of caught up with the last time that you spoke. I can't remember the name of the guy that you spoke to last time on stream about this, but I'm kind of on the other end of the Brexit debate. I've been a pro-Remain sort of campaigner since sort of the referendum. Been like a candidate for one of the political parties over here, Liberal Democrats and stuff. So I'm just generally a Ramona, as they like to call us over here.
Okay.
So I just thought I'd send an email to yourself, obviously, to kind of offer any sort of insight into the whole situation, because I know it can be a little bit confusing to anyone that's not kind of experiencing it.
Yeah, well,
Face
I mean,
forward.
so how no deal are you feeling right now?
I'm sort of it's sort of the worst outcome for me. I don't think there could be a possibly worst outcome.
I mean, but that's like at this point, it's looking like that's probably what's going to happen, right?
It's likely. The problem is at the moment, it'll be a no deal if Boris Johnson could find a way past a recent bill passed by Parliament called the Bennett Act. Basically, makes it illegal for him to leave on October 31st without a deal.
Oh,
So his only other option, so his only other option is to pledge for an extension. Which at the moment I'm hearing through the rumour mill that it probably might be till the 31st of January. So this will be the third extension.
Yeah.
Pushed through until for another
Kicking
year.
the can down the road, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is exactly it. I mean, I think it's a kind of the conservative mantra over here. It's just kind of kick the can down the road as long as you can, and then whoever's in the future can deal with it.
Yeah.
But
or
at the
you
moment,
just, do you think at some point you ever like people forget about it? Or they're just like, all right, listen, guys.
That's
a long
sweet.
time.
I can't remember what it was. It's not long ago, and it was something along the lines of the year like 2052 or something like that, and people are doing the ritual exit of the European Union. Nobody really knows what it means, but we're still doing it anyway.
Yeah. Are you familiar with how the United States handles its debt?
Very loosely. There's only so much you know when it comes to US economy.
So I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I think like in your system, you guys have a debt and you just can acquire more and more debt if you need to fund your government, and it's not a big deal, right?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, one of the big things with the Conservatives has been the case since the 2010 general election has been trying to get down the deficit. It's always been kind of the case trying to get the deficit
Okay.
down.
Check this out, okay? In America, all right, we don't want to have that much debt because it's bad. So we actually have a cap on how much we're allowed to go into debt as a country, right?
Right.
But the thing is that every single time we hit the cap, we just vote to raise it. And it's always like a huge fight every time it happens, because people are like, oh, well, we're not going to vote to raise the debt ceiling if you don't confront it. And so we fight over it like every few years. Got to vote to raise the debt ceiling. Got to vote to raise the debt. And it's just like a perpetual fight that America like always has. And I'm kind of wondering if like Brexit kind of like goes the same way, where you guys are just gonna be like, all right, listen, Brexit's getting moved to 2027, and then it, like every year it just becomes like another fight. I feel like the European Union. Oh shit! Oh, clicked that way too loud. I feel like at some point the European Union though is not gonna be okay with your perpetual like state of flux. No.
I think they're already pretty much at the end of the tether. They're pissed off as possibly they can be. I mean, France, it's not the first time they kind of mentioned anything in regards to just having enough with all of this. They're gone all together. And again, can't really blame them because, it's kicking the can down the road.
Yeah.
But for Britain, on the sort of like front line, so to speak, it's a division across so many divides that have been long-standing in the country. Yeah. The way I've always kind of seen it, it's like Britain's always had these long-standing issues that we're coming to face with at the moment with Brexit. The issues that we're facing isn't with Brexit itself. That's a symptom of long-standing issues that we've had for decades. And what Brexit does, it holds up a mirror in front of the UK, and we don't like what we're seeing. So it's just a case of either smash the mirror with a no deal Brexit, or embrace that's the fact of what we are, and perhaps look again to either re-entering the EU, but look at the reforms that we need to make ourselves to kind of.
I'm kind of curious if you could summarize the whole world and put people on either side of one line. What would like the big divide be in your opinion? Like what is the dividing line?
See, I mean, it's complicated because I can say something that will kind of resonate the same with the UK that might be the same with the US. Because I mean, very much the energies and attitudes that went in for Donald Trump's election were very much the same as what went in for the Leave vote in the UK. So with that, because I think what powered Donald Trump's election is the same what powered Brexit. It wasn't particularly there was an element of xenophobia or racism that was in there, but that wasn't the huge driving factor. It was an appetite for something different and a sense of abandon that needed to be kind of met. So with where I live in the UK, we're considered in a Labour heartland. It's a very working class town, old mining community and stuff. And since the Thatcher years to when the mines have been closed down and everything over that time, the town's never been given an opportunity to kind of revitalise or find an identity itself for that time. So as years have gone by, it's just kind of stagnated and people have become resentful. And then when you start drip feeding poison in people's ears, like, oh, it's the immigrants' fault, it's the EU's fault, they'll start to believe that as being the reason, as opposed to seeing what, where the actual sort of reasons are, and that's because there's no investment or development going on in these places. So I would probably say it's that it's a difference between the haves and the have-nots, so to speak.
Sure. So I kind of agree with you, but I almost feel like that's a proxy for another divide. It really feels to me, and this is like kind of dystopian or kind of weird, but when it comes to things like Brexit, when it comes to things like Trump, and when it comes to like a lot of social issues, it feels like the dividing line is as simple as urban versus rural. I feel like there are so many dividing lines, and that like divide between like the people that live in these, like, I would call them mega cities now, places like LA, San Francisco, London, these like huge sprawling centers of like urban wealth are always seem to be like at ends or juxtaposed to like the rural people. Like their social values are different. City dwellers tend to be more tolerant of immigrants, of like homosexuality, transgender people, like all these social issues or whatever. It seems that the divide is economic. City people tend to want like globalism, cheaper consumer goods. They don't care as much about like protecting our manufacturing, whereas rural people can be a lot more like motivated into like protect like mining towns and whatnot. And then in terms of like leaders, like rural people want like these strong, I don't want to say fascist, but these strong like authoritarian, quasi protectionist, isolationist leaders. And then the city people are more like, hey, like I want to be connected to the rest of the world. Yeah, it seems.
I don't know. I mean, I suppose on a UK aspect, there's kind of a fall down when it comes to the Brexit argument there, because a lot of the people I generally tend to face would be either local Leave campaigners or regional Leave campaigners and stuff. And you generally tend to hear it's like, oh, the EU's a protectionist racket. It's a protectionist racket. It's like, but part of it, I mean, there's a certain level of protection every sort of economy needs. So I mean,
a little bit. But I think when you look at let's see if I can find a vote. Like if I break down like I hate synergy. It's the worst programmer. Okay, sorry. If I look at like Brexit, Leave, or let's see if we can find like Brexit vote by district. I think that like even when you look inside of your countries, what do you consider like Scotland, England? What do you call these, states or
the countries?
Okay, yeah. Like even when you look and say these countries, like it feels like you find like a lot of the remainers are going to be found in places like London, and a lot of the leavers people want to leave are going to be found in places that are like more rural.
Well, I mean, it kind of depends. I mean, I suppose we're kind of I suppose it depends on what you kind of define as rural, because I wouldn't say where I'm from would be rural.
What's like the, if you don't mind me asking, what's like the approximate like population size or whatever of some of these places?
Let me double check. I used to know this.
I don't know fuck all about the UK or anything. What area is this over here? I'm guessing this is like a big city, guys. Is this?
So this is like outside Greater Manchester. So it's generally about 300,000 people that live around about where I am. So this is, if you go, it's whereabouts where Liverpool would be or where Manchester is, which is just in the north. It's just bring up Google Maps. So it would be Oh, I'm trying to look at the map that you've just got up at the moment.
Oh, this is Wales. Okay, gotcha. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, that's Wales. So yeah, you're not too far. So if you just go up a little bit from where you were. So if, yeah.
Sorry, hold on. So like I'm kind of okay. I've never done some stream before, so I admit I could be like totally wrong when I look at this.
Yeah, it's
but,
fine.
like, so I'm bringing up like this is like a
yeah.
population density map of like the United Kingdom, and then these are the people that voted for like remain versus leave. So like here in the bottom right, is this London? I should know. I was just there like a month ago.
Yeah, London's at the bottom.
Yeah, okay. So like I see London right here, okay, and then I look at the map here and it's like, oh, there's a lot of remainers here, right? And then like if I scroll up, I see I don't know what the fuck city or area this is, but then if I look on the map, like it seems like these areas like kind of around here, I think are like the more like
Birmingham.
Birmingham. Okay, yeah. And then like whatever this city or area is like up here seems to be like
so right there where you're surrounded right there, that's kind of interesting. So the right hand side of it, that's Manchester, the left hand side is Liverpool. Right in between that, in the middle of that, that's whereabouts I am.
Okay.
So I'm right in the centre of both these sort of metropolitan areas. And generally our sort of town is a run off for either of these places. If you live somewhere like here, you work in either of these two cities.
Sure. And then when I look at like the heaviest leave portion, like looks like it's like over here, like north of London and then maybe east of London. Whoops. And then I look at the density like over here. This is like the sparsest populated place. It's like the most. It looks like pretty rural. I don't know what the fuck this is over here.
I think that was like that's over near Lincoln. It's not Lincoln. No, that's near Lincoln and Grimsby and stuff. So I think that's like more so the highest sort of leave votes came from that side of the country.
Oh, this is like electorate size is actually mapped out. Oh, fuck, I didn't even need that population. Okay, but yeah, okay, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, in the United States, I don't know if you ever saw like the maps, like the districts.
It's like generally the population seems to be more so in California or towards New York, like East Coast, West Coast.
But if you break down like the districts, like you can see like all the places that vote for Trump are like very heavy rural, and even in the more like conservative states. So like I'm from Nebraska, like your little islands of blue, like this is Omaha, this is Lincoln. It's your big cities, right? And even in places like Texas, you know, like you've got like your I think is this Dallas and Austin, or maybe I have these backwards, but like your cities are usually the ones that like lean blue, and then all the rural areas are end up going like really red. I don't know. It's that divide seems like very interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I think there's a lot of it. I mean, the sort of to say the rural divide, so like where we are at the moment here, it does kind of fall alongside of lack of opportunities for a lot of these people.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's down to a lack of opportunity. Let's say there's a level of stagnation here. So with generally, if it was to categorize like Northerners, Northern England, we're generally quite proud people. Don't like to look out for each other. There's a sense of community. We don't like any sort of there's a suspicion to change. There's very much a strong sort of sense of keeping up an identity and stuff. And the idea with the way that the Vote Leave campaign was sold was a case of take back control and go back to the way that things were.
Yeah.
But there's no sort of, it's a very vague sort of sense of like, well, in what sense do you want to kind of go back and everything? And I think it taps into the same with the sort of Trump campaign to an extent. It was kind of a sense of a change, not for something progressive or new, but a change into the sense of going back to the way that things used to be. Let's bring the jobs back to America. Let's, bring people out and keep all the white people in the country and stuff like that as some sort of campaign strategy.
The benefits of I liken this to rent control. The benefits of globalization are very hard to see. Like if I can buy a computer for cheap, how is that from globalization, right? Like that's really hard for like a person. But the destructive effects of globalization are immediate and can be ever present in a person's life, right? Like I can look at Detroit and go, that's globalization. Like we lost so much manufacturing. All these people are out of jobs. These neighborhoods and cities that were once great manufacturing centers have fallen apart. Like, so like it sucks because like globalization, well, obviously I'm a huge capitalist and a globalist. So I will say like globalization as an immense benefit to the entire country.
Breaking up a minute, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Wait, can you hear me now?
Oh,
you can hear me? Hello?
Oh, yeah. I can hear you.
Yeah, so like I mean I'm a globalist and a capitalist, so I'll obviously say like I think globalism is a huge benefit to the world, but like it's really hard to see those benefits and it's really easy to see the damages, which can make it a really hard sell for the people especially that are damaged by it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's fucked. Like, if I had to kind of, because I mean, I could go into, there's so many sort of levels, because the way I put it across to someone the other day, there's so many different sort of levels of division within the UK that I think all come at play with the whole Brexit debate. There's a sense of young against old, there's a sense against north against south. It plays up to the class divides, it plays into racism.
Yep.
There's just so many different sort of divides that are at play here.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a general sense of denial. Like, if you talk to any sort of average person on the street about it at this point now, if they were even, I mean, with a town like mine, you could talk to someone who probably would have voted for Brexit, and you say, well, aren't you concerned about, company X has said that they're going to pull production from the UK, that's going to cost jobs, aren't you concerned about that? Says, oh, well, at the end of the day, no one really knows what's to happen. They'll retreat to that. They don't want to think or talk about it or something like that, because they don't want to think. I mean, it's the same as you were saying before, proud people, they don't want to be kind of made to be seen as if it was a wrong decision or something.
Yeah.
It's just it's a bit heartbreaking.
I've heard people like, do you know who like, I'm so sorry. Do you know who like Sargon of Akkad is?
Oh God,
Yeah, I've heard people like him talk about like, oh, well, the United Kingdom is such a great economy that we don't even need the EU. Like, we're going to be negotiating everything on our terms now. Like, we're going to like be stronger than the whole European Union. And it's like, all right, dude, like, let's chill. Like, even the United States can't really exist on its own at this point. Like, I don't think the United Kingdom is going to be able to pull it off. Like,
he is fucking deluded. I mean, he's been on this planet a lot longer than me, and he seems he's picked up half as much common sense as I probably have. He has no fucking idea what he's talking about. This is the sort of guy that would probably turn around and say, oh, well, the UK is the 5th largest economy in the world. It says, well, yeah, but that makes up for fucking 2% of the global, GDP and stuff like that. You can't turn around and say it's the 5th largest economy, because it's disingenuous to the fact, like, that 2% is nothing compared to the entire of the EU market.
Not to mention the size of your economy is largely informed by your imports and export market, right? When you input goods from other countries and then you improve upon those goods and sell them, like, that's counting towards your economy, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, the way I've always kind of viewed it, I mean, this is something definitely I kind of picked up over the last few years in the campaign, and the way I've always kind of seen the UK's relationship on the global stage is that it's always been this quote-unquote kingmaker, or sort of bridge between the EU and the US. So if you pull back to like 2012, the UK generally sat as the mediator between these two sort of powers, because, I mean, I think it was Joe Biden. I remember he did a podcast with one of our ex-deputy PM, Nick Clegg, said something along the lines of, the US never felt like it got on with the EU. This is even under the Obama administration. The US never felt like it got on with the EU, but the UK was that bridge on that avenue into the EU for discussions and to be able to kind of progress through things that way. And the UK used that. It's always leveraged this. So it's always been like the salesman of the world, which is kind of a case like, oh, come and do trade with us. We're not a full EU member.
Yeah, you're like the drug connect. Like, I can't kill you and I have to be your friend because you're the guy that has the connect to the good dope or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Pablo Escobar of the global trade markets. But that's the way that we've always been, and we don't see this. I mean, the problem is, I mean, I think you've said before in the stream before, you put forward a vote talking about trade agreements and frankly all this sort of boring malign stuff that no one thinks about day to day. Turn around to them and you say, expect them to make a vote on it. They're not going to have any sort of idea, so instead they're going to go for the voice that's going to seem like the most emotionally appealing, which in case was take back control, which seems to have lost control.
I feel like it's so hard to talk about because I don't even know. Like, what do you think will happen if you guys actually no deal leave? Like, do you really think it would get to like the level of like food shortages and shit, or do you think that stuff will carry on like normal but a little worse, or will it have like actual dramatically horrible impacts? Like, what do you think?
Like, it's really bizarre. It depends on. I suppose this sort of answer to this question at the moment depends on who you want to believe. Generally, I always side with either the data or the professionals or the experts, the people who know the industries, who work in these industries, and listen to what they have to say. So there was, I think it was earlier this year, there was a joint letter sent out from basically the major supermarkets in the UK, some major food suppliers, all turning around and saying, we can't have a no deal because we can't confirm we'll be able to keep food on the shelves if that's the case. There's been concerns coming out from the NHS, from medical professionals, saying that there's a distinct risk of drugs coming into the UK that could put people's lives at risk if there's a no deal Brexit. And then at the same time, I mean, it came out, I think it was last month, there was a doctor that almost took one of the ministers, Jacob Rees-Mogg, who's like a cartoon version of a British man. If everyone thinks he's like a cartoon character British man. If he was threatening to take him to court because it was a classic case of a doctor, someone who is a specialist in this field, did some work for the government to put forward projections on what a no-deal scenario would be for the UK.
Mm-hmm.
It came forward that there were maybe supplies for drugs and stuff like that, and if there any sort of disruptions to that, it would be on the government for doing that. So then this Jacob Rees-Mogg character came out and said, "Oh no, it's Project Fear. It's all like we'll be fine. It'll be great. Britain will be a trading powerhouse." Completely ignorant to the point that's been made, and basically compared the guy to being some sort of anti-vax scarer. And it's like, for fuck's sake, these are the guys running our country. And anytime that someone comes forward with expert advice, it's just kind of shoveled away as someone that doesn't believe in Britain strong enough, as if it's fucking Scientology or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, there's just so many sort of different angles at this point now. As it kind of goes across, if a no deal comes through, the way I'm kind of seeing it is the projections coming out from, the Bank of England with everything else. I take them as verbatim because I don't, between him or just some sort of swivel-eyed Tory sat on the front benches, I'm more than likely to believe the expert than some sort of, lunatic.
Yeah. Someone in chat is saying, a British guy, he literally compared the doctor that wrote the no deal medical plans to the guy who made the vaccines cause autism study. Yeah, jeez.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's what he did. Yeah, I couldn't remember. But yeah, exactly. But that's it. And that apparently was kind of thing he's verbatim. And then he did make an apology in Parliament for it, for as much as that kind of amounted for. But the comparison's there, and it's not just happened with that, it's happened on so many different levels. When the letter came out, I was saying before about the multiple supermarkets and stuff, it was washed away as being scaremongering or something that's not should be taken seriously or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's playing with people's lives. It's I don't know, it's weird because I'm at a point with it now to where I'm sort of really sort of pessimistic about the whole thing. But I try and keep up with like running campaigns and doing anything I can from my little bit of the world.
Mm-hmm.
But it is exhausting because it's like meeting up a wall. The difficulty is, and it started all the way back in 2016 with the campaigning for the referendum, because the Remain campaign was so shit.
Yeah.
The Leave campaign was so full of bollocks, and it just turned out this complete shit show.
Well, it felt like, I don't know, maybe you know the climate better. It felt like you guys didn't think that it would actually happen. Like, there was like no way that people would actually vote Remain. That
was generally it. I mean, where I was, I mean, it very much felt like it was going to go that direction anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I was nervous as fuck when it came around to the referendum day because I thought it was going to go one way or another. I used to work at a school at the time, and I remember waking up the next day and seeing the result and thinking, fuck me, like, what happens now?
Hey, that's how we felt when we elected Donald Trump. Yeah, amen, brother.
So I remember, because my mum voted to leave, and I went round to her house before.
Oh, no.
And she came downstairs, she just smiled, going like, morning! And I'm like, don't fucking start, right? Don't start. I said to her, you mark my words, David Cameron will resign, and this will be the start of years of trouble. We won't end up leaving.
He just fucking moonwalked the fuck out. He was like, good luck, dudes.
He did you see the video? There's a video of him when he announced his resignation. He was fucking humming and singing to himself, walking back to number 10 after he announced his resignation. It's like, fucking hell. It's like a dog doing a shit on the rug, and then it just decides to go and, wants to play fetch after it.
Holy shit.
But yeah, I remember that, and I remember going into work that day, and there was a student that was teaching at the time. She was in year 11. Her dad works for a company, and I don't know what it was, but he was in Germany quite often, every now and again. And she came in, she was like, what's going to happen now? Like, is my dad going to lose his job? And I was just like, I don't know. Because it's a weird position. The way when I used to teach, my sort of position used to be, not to lie, and just kind of tell the truth as often as you can. But I don't want to turn around and say to her, oh, no, everything will be fine because Brexit's going to be brilliant. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I don't want to turn around and say, oh, no, your dad's definitely going to get sacked because there's no way you're going to keep hold of his job. So I just had to say, I don't know, because no one really knew at that point. And it's
or still even knows. Like, I've seen everything from like the stock market's going to fall for a little bit and it's going to suck, but like things will get a little bit more expensive, but eventually they'll kind of go back to normal-ish. just a little
it's like every time
shittier, all the way to like
Yeah.
it's going to be like catastrophic. Like there's literally going to be problems like supplying food to everybody in the country. Like it's going to be like Soviet Union era fucking shit or something. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And the general sort of sense. I mean, it's weird as it kind of stands at the moment. Brexit's going to let get delayed again. We're going to be doing a general election soon.
Oh!
That's on the cards at the moment.
Here's something.
Yes.
Here's something we'll probably disagree on.
Okay.
So you've heard the talks of like a second referendum, right?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually disagree with that. And I'm
Okay.
curious what your stance is. So I actually feel like, so to be very clear, I don't know if you've gotten this impression or not, I'm very like anti-Brexit. I think it was horrible.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be really bad for the UK, everything, economy, social shit, like sovereignty, everything. It's going to be really bad.
Yeah.
However, I have like philosophically, like democratically, it seems like doing a second referendum is like very fucking weird. Like where basically you do one referendum and then you're like, wait a second. Okay, hold on guys. Like let's try again. Like we didn't get the right result. And then you do another one. Do you undermine like a lot of your democratic processes or like any referendums in the future doing that?
Yeah, this has been my thing for the last 3 years. I'm for a second referendum. I wasn't initially. It took until about funnily enough, it took until Donald Trump's election for me to actually activate, so to speak, and actually campaign and do stuff and join a party. And I do think a second referendum is kind of the only way to solve the mess. I mean, not to get sort of confused, because I always like to make this distinction. That a referendum will solve the Brexit question, but it won't solve any of the divisions. I don't think anybody could at this time. It's always much easier to break something than it is to fix something. So we're already broken at this point by Brexit, and it's going to take years to fix it. But my argument is it's always better to do that off a strong economic base, and if we can do it via a second referendum and hopefully campaign to remain again, then we have at least the economic foundation to start building up all the sort of divides socially from there. But my biggest sort of thing with it is the information, the campaigning that went on for the referendum first time around back in 2016. None of it. The biggest comparison I always put it to is the Scottish independence referendum. When that referendum was done, the SNP at the time released a white paper, whole manifesto, an idea of what Scotland would be independent, and gave that to the voters and said, "This is your judgment. This is what we'll do if we become independent." And it outlined the strategy of what they wanted to do, and obviously people knew what it was like to be a part of the UK, because that's what Scotland's been
So
like
like
for years.
I've heard this argument a lot, like there's a lot of lying, blah 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 blah, but this is true of literally every single everything ever, right? Like politically, like people lie about like literally every single. I guess like my only worry, to be clear, if I was in the United Kingdom, I'd probably say fuck all of this, and I would want a second referendum anyway to stave off like apocalyptic conditions. But like I
mean, it's a case. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, well, like, because there's misinformation around literally every single like electoral issue fucking ever, right? All the way from America says that
I mean,
like we have to fund our military or else the whole world will nuke us, to we need minimum wage or else everybody's going to starve in the streets, to like all of this shit happens like with every electoral issue every time, right?
It's different with. I mean, I always can see it's different with the Brexit campaign, because I mean, with general elections, you'll generally tend to get that. There's some exaggerations or maybe some, information.
That's a nice way to put it, but yeah, sure.
Party's manifesto. This is by the part. The difference is that when the principle is, I mean, I obviously believe in democracy myself, and still kind of losing a bit of faith in it.
Amen, brother. That's where I'm at. Fuck democracy.
But my general argument is, when the Brexit vote was done, it's difficult to campaign, or it's difficult to kind of leverage a fair campaign against fanciful, just sort of like unicorn dreams. So at the time, the Leave campaign was saying stuff like, we'll be able to retain all of our opt-outs and retain all of our privileges with the EU, but then also be able to trade with the free world. I mean, you see
that all of the funding going to the EU is going to go to the NHS. That all that, like all that crazy.
There was no foundations on any studies. There was nothing at all that backed this up. It was just them saying stuff to kind of win the vote. And when it's come out, and this end of it, this is where a lot of the confusion's come into it, because the biggest problem with the referendum is that it's not a firm topic. It's not a firm sort of decision. You could turn around to someone and say, if you had a hosting a dinner meal, and you said, right, you've got your two options what you want. You've got this Caesar salad, or we'll have meat. And so people vote and they say, okay, I'll have meat. Right, okay, the table voted 6-5, we're going to have meat. Okay, fair enough, we'll have meat. Okay, what sort of meat do we want? And people start arguing amongst themselves between, well, I wanted turkey, or I wanted chicken. And then before you know it, there's divisions amongst that. That's been the last 3 years. So imagine a dinner party arguing about what sort of chicken and what sort of meat you want. And eventually,
in the
we're all
United
just eating
States,
rats at the end of the day.
Yeah, in the United States, it's actually over healthcare is what we do this on. So, like, do we need some form of universal healthcare? Yeah, everybody, like, I think there's a huge consensus. It's like 80%. But then it's like, okay, should we ban private healthcare and do Medicare for all? Well, wait, hold on. You're going to ban... Wait, and now it's like, well, wait, fuck. The path forward is actually... It's really annoying because sometimes people present things as binary issues. Like, well, it's either yes or no. But it's like, no, once you say yes or no, there's like very complicated paths before you that you might not agree on either, right? Which is what, obviously you're finding out with Brexit. And we found out with a whole bunch of everybody. Yeah, political issues are really complicated. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose the biggest comparison, there was a referendum in Switzerland not long ago. I'll have to find out the details for it. But basically, it was something to do with a change... it was something to do with the change in some sort of immigration policy of theirs, because generally Switzerland runs through referendums constantly anyway. And the government turned round and rejected the referendum result, and they gave the reason as because that the reason for it is that the proposal on the referendum, it wasn't clear enough to be able to form any sort of like stern policy or anything from it, which is a sensible option to take. So now they're gonna do a revote and a rerun of the referendum on it, but make sure that the selection of the options of the referendum are a lot more. What's it called? You know, they're understood and it's something they could build policy from. And at the moment, Brexit just isn't that. There's no sort of policy to build from there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's actual people now campaigning now terms like, oh well, I wanted a no deal all the time. It's like, no, you fucking didn't. Nobody wanted a no deal at the time because it was seen as impossible. It was being campaigned that we would get a deal and that it would be a very possible thing to do, and it's just not the case at all. And I think it's just that. I think it's just that sense. The goalposts have been changed quite a lot, and things are so much different now than we were back in 2016. It's worth going back and asking the people again just to start to rebuild things to where we were. There's any sort of other avenues like shooting ourselves in the head.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I'd still think it's definitely the best course of action. There is the sort of like, is it an anti-democratic sort of thing to do? But I don't think the UK exactly could stand up and say it's the most democratic country in the world anyway. I mean, we've got the House of Lords.
Dude, finding out about some of that shit. I like reading about weird political shit in other fucking countries. I didn't know the House of Lords existed until 6 months ago. It sounds really fucking funny to me.
Yeah, this is the thing, because generally the consensus in the UK for the House of Lords is either it should be abolished or it should be reformed. I think it should be reformed just to have an elected second chamber. It makes sense to have an elected second chamber.
Yeah. Yeah, it was so weird because I'd always heard, like, in the United States, like, our Senate, we have a bicameral legislation too. And I would always hear, like, oh, our Senate is based off the House of Lords. And then, like, well, I don't remember why, but I heard something about it. I was like, that sounds weird. And I looked up, like, how your House of Lords actually works. So, like, wait, this is nothing like the Senate. What the fuck?
It's fucked. And there was a scandal, when was it? About fucking 5 years ago? This was before the Brexit stuff. The House of Lords, they get paid like £300 a day for being a part of the House of Lords. And there was a scandal of one of them that was using his money to buy like prostitutes. There was a video that came out with him. I think he was a bishop or something. Came out with him like snorting coke off some prostitute's tits or something in this seedy bedroom and stuff.
That's actually really good though. In the United Kingdom, your bishops fuck prostitutes. In the United States, our bishops fuck little boys. So I mean, it's an improvement, I guess.
I suppose that's the one thing, you know. They try and keep themselves behaved, but not the taxpayer. But yeah, it's fucked. But I mean, it ties into things. Like I said earlier on, the problem is the UK, for the large point, is that Brexit holds up a mirror to a lot of our faults. We're fucked so much. Like, a lot of people were scratching their heads when the referendum was called because it was like, oh, it's just whoever gets the majority. It's like, well, surely if it's like a constitutional change like this, it should be a 2/3 majority, or, you know, something, just some sort of like thingy to make sure you've got a direct will of what the people's going to say. Because when you looked at the polls going up to the referendum, it was either going to go one way or another. And no one could really call which was, as you said before, people thought it was going to go Remain, and it just didn't. Some people would have voted the other way just for a bit of a fun, of a laugh.
Well, hey, if you guys are feeling real dumb now, there's like a 50-50 chance that we re-elect Donald Trump, so...
Yeah, I mean, I've only been kind of keeping loose. I mean, isn't Warren like ahead in the polls for...
Yeah, she's doing pretty good right now, but like even if she wins like on the Democratic side, like there's a good chance that Donald Trump wins re-election, I think. It's like I would say like it's 50-50 right now. I'm curious what the voting odds are actually, but
I was saying to was saying to my friend the other day in work, I think it'd probably be better for the Democrats if they had Biden, solely because he does seem a bit doddery. And if he does say something slightly racist, at least he'll be able to appease to some of the Trump supporters who are genuinely racist, because they probably might get fooled to think that he's racist too, just to get someone in there that isn't Trump.
Mm-hmm. I used to agree on the Biden thing, but he's made so many gaffes, and Elizabeth Warren has done a really good job at like pulling people from like all the other camps that she's like emerging, I think, as like a pretty strong front runner. Like she's doing a really good job. Oof. I mean, so the betting odds right now have it like almost split, almost 50-50 between Donald Trump and Elizabeth Warren right now. It's pretty crazy.
Oh, fucking hell.
Hold on. Wait, 1 second.
Yeah, go. This one. Second term of Trump. Sounds like a fucking fever dream.
All right, fuck. I'm sorry. I'm back. All right, what's up?
Yeah, it's fine. It just seems, it'd be, I don't know the thing. I'm looking to kind of the US at the moment for some good news, obviously with this impeachment stuff that's going on at the moment, because I just need something to cheer me up. Because everything I hear about Brexit, even if it turns up in my favour or something like that, like, oh, this is a win for the pro-Remain parties, it's like,
yeah, one thing that sucks is that even if you guys manage to stave off Brexit and it doesn't happen, there's still like a huge divide that's going to have to be healed in that country, because there are going to be a sizable portion of British, or not British, but you what do you call all of yourselves? Like UK-ish? United Kingdomers? What do you guys like?
British.
Okay.
Yeah, generally British.
Wait, is that so? Like even like somebody from Wales or Scotland, like I could refer to them as British?
Yeah, so I mean, generally you refer to someone if they're from England. If they're from England, Scotland, Wales, and in Northern Ireland, if they're pro-unionist, you could refer to them as British. But also, I mean, I'm British as well as English, or someone could be British as well as Welsh or British or Scottish.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so like even like it seems like there's like a sizable chunk of British people that are going to be like pretty upset if the Leave thing doesn't happen. Like that's going to be like a big like disenfranchised chunk of people that are going to have to be dealt with, that are going to be looking for like retaliation come next election season.
I mean, it's interesting because when you look at the, because obviously as I said before, we're heading towards a general election. It's really, when you look at the polling and stuff to the way that things are now, it's changed so much, because at the end of 2015, that's when the Conservatives got their majority. That was all kind of the established thing. Like the Conservative government, Labour in opposition, Liberal Democrats were destroyed. The UK Independence Party at the time was kind of posing a kind of threat to the Conservatives. Up until the point that they've completely collapsed, and now it's changed all drastically all of a sudden. So both Labour and the Conservatives, the two sort of establishment parties, they are struggling in the polls. The Conservatives are struggling against the Brexit Party, and Labour's struggling against the Liberal Democrats.
How big is your like Brexit party?
So once upon it, back in 2010, when it's the coalition, the Liberal Democrats were in government with the Conservatives. Back after that coalition, it got absolutely destroyed, and people thought that would be it for the Liberal Democrats. They went from like, I think it was 51 MPs down to 8.
Okay. How many members of parliament do you have altogether?
Now at the moment we have 19.
No, I mean like for your whole government, like how many?
Oh, sorry, there's about 650.
Okay, gotcha.
Members of parliament. So there was only 8 in there, down from like 50.
Okay, jeez.
So where it used to be a sizable chunk that used to be the kingmaker in Parliament, it was decimated completely.
Nice. Sargon did so much damage.
And it's just... yeah. So then as all this Brexit mess has kind of come about, UKIP, that's the party that Sargon of Akkad ran under, they were kind of tanking, starting to slow down, because people didn't really see the point of UKIP anymore because of Brexit. The Conservatives started to take a pro-Brexit line, and so they put Theresa May in power, who was a Remainer, but then decided to lead the Brexit government, which is a bit of a mistake. Labour's been somewhat stagnating underneath Jeremy Corbyn for a while now, and the Liberal Democrats have slowly been climbing back up to where there's a couple of times to where they've topped the polls once or twice now, and even a few times they kind of overtake Labour every now and again as the second largest party, which is insane considering where they used to be. But most likely when the polls do come out after the general election, they probably won't return anything to the size of enough to do a government or anything. It'll likely be another hung parliament if there's another general election, which means coalitions, deals, and stuff like that for whatever happens.
Gotcha.
But yeah, there's so many things at play at the moment. I mean, it's crazy. It's fucking crazy. But I'm just trying to think back because I can't remember what else was said during the. Because who was it you having a conversation with last time? Were they an advisor for UKIP or something prior or something like that? I
Are you
can't
talking
remember.
about the British guy that I talked to a long time ago?
Yeah, was it back in February or something? You told him about it.
Oof. I don't know. He sounded really nice. I liked the way he talked. But I think it was conservative, but he did a good job at like not like being overtly conservative. But if you're thinking of the same guy, you're talking about the guy that like kind of like interviewed me and just asked me questions or whatever.
Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to remember. I mean, it's like I said in the email because I initially got in touch with it. I was literally found a video come up.
Yeah, I remember because you mentioned it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, and that was it from there. So I thought, oh, maybe there's some sort of insight I could kind of offer from here. Me and my sunny disposition and northern accent, just to see what I could kind of offer. But it's, yeah, there's bits in that I remember watching. I was thinking that's not right. Like that's like I'm pretty sure he was like a politics major or something, and there was stuff that he was saying that was just completely wrong. Like he didn't know much about the House of Lords himself or anything, which just seemed.
Oh, I wonder maybe it was somebody different than I'm not sure.
Sorry, you broke up then. What was that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe it was somebody different than I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Oh no, yeah.
But,
yeah. I mean, did you ever get a chance to talk to Saga of a Cad about any of this?
About Brexit? No,
stuff?
the last... Fuck, I should, though. The last thing I took... It would be cancerous as fuck, actually. No, I'm not going to. Fuck that. I'm not going to do it.
I could predict basically the same lines he'd probably use because I've heard them all before. Generally, what I generally tend to hear is, as I said before, they'll retreat back into, well, no one really knows. Like, we've had enough of the experts or some shit like that.
Yeah, that line, that anti-intellectual line is really nice. Although, now that I'm getting into... I don't know how much you follow my shit, like, politically. Now that I'm starting to debate lefties, though, I hear, like, a lot of the same thing. We're tired of the experts. Yeah. Economics isn't a real science. Like, fuck all this shit, yeah? So, I'm starting to hear a lot of the same shit.
Yeah, this is the thing. Because, I mean, where I live, it's a strong sort of Labour-held town. And I think this is part of my exhaustion. I mean, the Brexit stuff exhausts me, but so does the Conservatives and Labour Party overall. I've just kind of... They've broke down my will because the hardcore Jeremy Corbyn supporters that think they'd be a bit like I don't know what you call the Bernie Sanders supporters over there, like the hardcore of them. They're just exhausting because I don't know whether they know basic maths or not, or parliamentary arithmetic or anything.
Yeah. Like austerity is bad. I agree with that, but like infinite like spending and infinite taxation or things is probably not the way to go either. There's probably a healthy balance in the middle somewhere, but
well, that's the thing, because I mean one of the big sort of policies they want to push outside of Brexit is like, oh, we want to renationalise the energy companies here in the UK.
Ooh, that's
and
scary.
It's like, yeah, that's one of the big policies they want to push forward, and they keep getting advised by United Utilities and stuff like, if you do this, it's not going to be as smooth sailing as you think it's going to be. Like my part-time job, I work a night shift at the moment. My part-time job is for like a metering company that works for energy companies on their behalf and stuff. So if Labour were in government and they were to nationalise the energy fucking sector, that puts that company at risk then, and basically quite a lot of jobs in this area through going through that. And considering they're meant to be the pro-workers party, it just doesn't sit right with me. That's all. Plus, there's debts that the company has. Am I meant to pay my tax towards paying off the debts that the government's going to inherit from taking over this company when it nationalises it? No fucking way am I doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, especially in a post like Venezuela world, like I feel like
at the moment,
like
both the sort of
I feel like
and Tories have gone so far in opposite wings. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
No
like
sense in the UK.
Wait, can you hear me? Hello?
Oh, sorry.
Uh-oh. Wait, hello?
Oh, I can't hear you. You've gone.
Hello.
Oh, there you go. Hello.
Wait. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we agree on most things. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I said before, like I think I said in the emails and stuff. I don't think there's anything at all that we do disagree on, as far as I can see. I mean, yeah, I think even with the second referendum stuff, like I'm campaigning for it, but it's just kind of a last resort. I mean, at the moment, the party that I'm sort of representing or a part of, they just backed a strategy to revoke Article 50 outright and would basically stop Brexit outright if they were to win a general election and get a majority government. But it's overturning a referendum result on 30% of the vote.
Sure.
Is a bit off.
So I don't know what this is or if this is a troll or not, but somebody in my chat just said if I want to get really angry, I should quiz you over something called HS2.
HS2.
What is that?
Yeah. Basically, HS2 is a high speed railway coming from London to the north.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of the few Northerners that supports HS2. I'm fine with it.
Why would people like be opposed to it?
I could kind of see it because the general sort of thing was like it goes through rural lands and it destroys some
It's okay.
farmlands and stuff. That's the sort of environmental argument for which I kind of see. I would probably say that the problem is with HS2 is that it should really prioritize infrastructure up north first before concentrating between the link between the north and London.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, I'm in favour of it because I think there's a strong environmental argument for it, and there's a strong sort of like financial incentive for it too. Generally, when people think about it, they think, it saves a couple of minutes off a train journey from Manchester to London. When it's not just that, it takes freight trains off the main lines, which it frees up a lot more space for lorries to be taken off the motorway and stuff to be shipped around on trains. It just makes economic sense, I think.
One compliment I can give to your country. London has so many fucking people walking around, more than any other city I've been to on the planet.
Yeah.
But your traffic congestion is actually not that bad. The tube and everything works like pretty well. I guess like it's late a lot, or it seems like maybe it could be. But in terms of like getting to places, as an American, it's fucking fascinating to me. Holy
the public
shit!
Transport. I mean, London's pretty great with its public transport, but the further north you get, the shitter it gets. Like, anytime I go down to visit London, I'll see like Southerners down there get genuinely angry and genuinely annoyed because they've missed the tube.
Yeah.
And then there's another one coming in like 2 minutes. It's like, calm the fuck down.
Yeah, that's what I say. Like, because even though like it seemed like when I was mapping it out, like it was late, like pretty often, but it runs like every fucking like 6 minutes or whatever. Like it seems like it's pretty fucking common.
It's not a problem.
Whereas in America, in a lot of places, if you miss a bus, you're gone for like 2 hours. Like if you miss a bus, like it could be a long time before another shows up. Yeah.
Oh, you keep breaking up.
Oh shit! Can you hear me? Hello.
Are you still there?
Hello. Testing 1 2 1 2.
Hang on.
What the fuck? London is the busiest place you've been? Penguin for foot traffic? Yeah, for sure. Or I don't know where all you've been, but like, where have you been that there's more foot traffic than in London?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Hello?
No. You keep breaking up. 1 second.
I haven't spent a lot of time in New York City, so I'm not sure if New York City.
I mean, with the further up north you get in the UK, the shitter the public transport gets. Like I live in Greater Manchester. It takes me about, on a good day, near enough like 45 minutes to get from where I live into Manchester, which it really shouldn't take that long. It's just because the train system and the rails are just so fucked up here. It just takes much longer than it needs to.
Mm-hmm.
And it just gets worse the further up you go. It's ridiculous.
Sure.
Again, it's lack of investment in these places that gets people wound up.
Okay. Well, yeah. I guess anything else, or are we good?
I think we're good. I mean, again, it was never going to really be a debate or anything because I think we're just too similar for any of that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm happy enough to kind of give an update. Maybe post Brexit, whether that happens after October, looking unlikely, or in the year 3000 when it probably might go through.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just have to wait and see.
All right, cool. Well, hey, listen, I really appreciate the conversation.
But, yeah, I'm all good if you're good.
It's been fun, and maybe we'll talk in the future. Yeah?
Yeah, definitely. Just hit me up at any point. I'm happy for that.
All right, cool. I appreciate the conversation, my dude. See you later.
No problem. You take care then.
Yep, bye.
Bye.
Sounds like we've identified that the universe itself, or what we perceive to be the universe, is not fundamental.